Even was when I got here, but whenever I get here, I always feel better. Genesis 3:17 this morning. Genesis 3:17 is where we're going to look. The title I have today is Work for Our Sakes, and we're going to look at this today because the Lord led me to it. But I have considered people that don't have to work, and I have considered people that do have to work, and I have considered what becomes of them. And Genesis 3:17 says, Unto Adam he, this is God said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat of the herb of the field. And the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. What initially led me to this was a commentary wherein the fellow did not like the way that was worded, and he said that it should have said that cursed is the ground because of thee. Well, yes. Yes, the ground was in fact cursed because of the sin of Adam. Yes. It is, not was, is, still is. We all at various points in time have had gardens here. And when I was little, when I heard someone say weed the beans, I wanted to be anywhere. And I do mean anywhere. I would even have been in school studying trigonometry rather than weed the beans in July in the garden in the sun with the sweat and the flies and the gnats and the spiders and the dirt and the spiders and the spiders. But I want y'all to think about something else. As I considered what he said, because God doesn't do things arbitrarily. And God doesn't give us his word randomly. And I will plant my flag on it, and I don't care who you are, and I don't care how important you feel you are, and I don't care how many letters come after your last name whenever you announce to me who you are. Whenever you boil it down to the very end, whenever you take it to the utter end, a King James Version of the Bible is better researched, better studied, better authored, better translated. Deal with it. I'm sorry. You can argue all you want. You're wrong. You can go be wrong in your corner, or you can be wrong in my face. I don't care. You're still wrong. For a multitude of reasons that I don't have time to deal with today. But that particular statement there, cursed is the ground for thy sake. I want you to consider this. We've all heard at some point, except the real youngins, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And I would say that little proverb has faded through time, but I'm also going to say it's still accurate, it's still true today. I'm an adult. I am responsible. I'm reminded of that every once in a while when I look around to find a responsible adult. I'm it. I don't like being it, but I'm the one that's responsible. And I have discovered something about myself. If you park my fat fuzzy self in a recliner for 15 minutes and I'm supposed to be studying, it doesn't matter because something's going to wander through my mind. Something is going to come to my attention that has nothing to do with studying the Word of God, nothing to do with praying to God, nothing to do with learning about God, nothing to do with anything. Not only that, nothing that is profitable to me. Not even a little bit. For instance, the penguins have needs. I see people thinking, no, stop, just stop. Okay? You say, Mike, that's ridiculous. Well, sorry. Do clowns taste funny? I don't care what it is. It can be villainous. It can be vile. It can be foul. It can be disgusting. It can be funny. It doesn't matter. Turn me loose for 5 minutes with nothing to do. My little old mind is wandered out yonder somewhere. And if you turn me loose with nothing to do with my hands, you know what? I'm not known for missing meals, and guess what I'll do if you turn me loose with a bag of pretzels? Or a bag of cookies? or Helen Ray's biscuits, which, by the way, I can and will fight you over. And I will win. Turn me loose for 5 minutes and see what it do. Consider your lives. Turn yourselves loose. Consider, what do you do when you have 5, 10 minutes? What do you wander off into? Is it anything profitable? Now let's just get down to brass tacks. Let's say that it's not profitable. That's okay. Sometimes I have to question whether penguins have knees or not. Sometimes I do question whether clowns taste funny or not. But when it's all said and done, you can laugh, by the way. When it's all said and done, has it been profitable? No. Absolutely not. I haven't done a thing for myself. I've just sat there spinning the wheel, so to speak, mentally. Now, let's take a child. You turn a child loose unsupervised with nothing to do for 3 minutes. And what happens? You know, we've got some young'uns here today. I'm going to ask Mama and Daddy, well, they have Grandma and Grandpa here today. You're raising another child. You don't know about them. You've never seen them. Not me. Not me as a heretic and a heathen. Not me is of the devil. Not me does things that my children never did. I know, because I'd say, who made the mess? Not me. Who got in the cookies? Not me. Who got in the potato chips? Not me. I fed, clothed, and raised not me, and never once saw the child. Give a 3-year-old a box of crayons and turn them loose unsupervised, and what's going to happen? Turn a teenager loose. And this is something that I will plant my flag on, and if you do it, you are a fool. Turn your teenager loose without supervision with other teenagers. Go ahead and see what it brings. See what it brings. I don't know why she ended up with a baby at 16. Because you were dressing her like a lot lizard at 13, and you didn't have the good common sense to keep he and her around where you could keep an eye on them. Don't sit there and tell me you don't know why that. I raised them better than that. They're kids. They do stupid stuff. I know I was one. I don't know why they did that. Yes, you do. And this is the thing that I think about whenever we look at that wording, for thy sake. I've dealt with modern translators that are in constant need to undermine and reword the work of James's translators. And this is yet another instance where they've fallen, I think, to pride, to arrogance, and to error. Most translators, again, say the ground is cursed because of you. And they're partially correct. But the ground is cursed because of our folly. And for thy sake can be seen and read in that context, but that's not the only context. It is simply one that caught modern translators' eyes. It fits with their worldview. Their overall narrative is constructed in their respective version and perversions of Scripture. The thing is, I want to look deeper than the experts. And I want to see what the scholars and the geniuses have missed, either willfully or ignorantly. And I want to turn to the original. If idle hands give comfort and aid to the enemy, then I think it's safe to say that working hands deny him rest or opportunity to hinder the work of God. If I am busy at the work of God, if I am busy studying the Word of God, if I am busy gainfully employed in the job, the work that God gave me, and yes, if you have a job, God gave it to you, and you have an obligation to do that job to the best of your ability, it is God-given to support you. If you are busy at that, you do not have time to do things that are wrong, that are villainous, that are sinful, because you are otherwise occupied with the things of God. You are supporting your family. You are educating your family. In the case of the men, you are leading your family. You are learning about God. You are studying God. You are perhaps even communicating with God, but you are not giving aid and comfort to the enemy. A child busy doing chores, after all, cannot be busy getting in the cookie jar. And I want to say this. We think of the child first because we, the adults in the room, have this idea that we somehow have risen above these things. That somehow that we manage ourselves, that it's just the kids that we have to, kind of herd along. I'm going to tell you something today, beloved, my brothers and sisters, because I'm guilty of this as well. Give me 20 minutes to not do something and see if my little fat self isn't occupied in something that would not be, it's at best a waste of time and is perhaps sinful. You say, oh, that's not so. Well, let's just think about this. What have you thought this morning so far sitting here? Have you been absolutely entranced, enchanted with the word of the fat guy up front? Have you hung on my every word? The melodious sounds of my, come on, I'm running out of sarcasm here. When it's all said and done, I'm not stupid and I don't fault you at all. There have been things go through your mind this morning. Did I turn the oven off? Did I turn the coffee maker off? Do I have enough gas or do I need to get gas on the way home? Do I need to stop at the store? If these kids twitch one more time, I'm going to smack them. If I hear that one say something one more time, I'm going to knock them into the past so they can learn again and come forward. What, you never did that? Or in the case of one young fella I know here at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, have I got shoes that will fit him this week? Actually, that's any of these young men here when it's all said and done. You look at them and you wonder if the shoes they have will get them through this week because they grow about 3 inches every time I see them. There have been other things go through your mind, haven't they? They go through your mind for 2 reasons. Number one, because you're human, I'm human. They go through your mind for another reason too, because the devil is very happy when you're not thinking about God. And if you're not thinking about God, you'll be thinking about something else. So he gives you something else. We like to think that we've risen above these things, and the reality says it's a lie that I tell ourselves, that I tell myself. We have an infinite capacity to seek out sin. We have the nose of a bloodhound and the eyes of an eagle to spy out something we should not be in as adults. We want to fuss at the kids, but I'm going to tell y'all something right now. I've seen many an adult get tore up because church went 10 minutes over and the game had started. There's a race today. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If there's a race, you know what counts? The last lap. There's a ball game. Well, that probably is. You want to sell your soul for a ball? We can go fishing. I have never met a bass in my life that's worth your soul. We can go out on the boat. Yeah. I'll even say going out on the boat is fun. I will say that if you ask your brother-in-law if that's all he's got after he's cracked the whip and launched you 30 feet off at one time, the next time he will not have less. You will learn to fly and you will skip like a rock. Why? Because I like being out on a boat. I learned that. I can't even swim. Put on a life vest and hang on. You like going out on the boat? The truth is that no person left to indulgence will ever do a thing but sink into that life in pursuit of even more vile, more debauched activity and behavior. It's just what we are. So that's not true. Look at people with absolute power and see what the people with absolute power have done. Look at the people in the Bible with absolute power and see what they have done. Look at the people in life that we know of in our what I would call recent history. Look at what they've done whenever they have absolute power? What did Lenin do with absolute power? What did Stalin do with absolute power? What did Hitler do with absolute power? What do our current presidents and congressmen and legislators, from the federal to the state to the local, what do they do with the power that they're given? What do the Bill Gates of the world do with the power that they have in their hands, with the money that they have? The Bill Gates, what do they do? I can't even think of his name now. The Twitter dude, Elon Musk. Richest dude in the world. What does he do with that? Oh, he does good things. Check the skeletons in the closet, beloved. Check the skeletons in the closet. And I'm going to say this. I have considered, and I cannot find any case of a noble mind and spirit in any human being who has ever been so cursed as to lead a life of leisure. Not once. And this leads to something that no child pulling weeds in the garden, no teenage boy throwing hay bales in the field will ever believe in their youth. Work is a blessing, and hard work more so. Yeah, I'm going to say that because I remember whenever I would be told, when I was little, we put up between 10 and 12,000 square bales a year. And whenever you were too little to pick up the hay bales, you could roll the hay bales because you put 2 rows into one so that the truck with the loader could down through the field. And apparently it was a cardinal sin if there was more than 10 foot between a bale. So you rolled 2 into one. If that wasn't enough, you rolled 3 into one. And I'm going to tell you all too, my grandpa, I hated it when he drove. I loved my grandpa, but the one thing I hated was when he got in a hay truck because he would not put the truck in first gear and just go. If there was 20 foot between a hay bale, he was grabbing 3 gears. I hated it with a passion. But you know what? It taught me to suffer. So that's not something you ought to have to learn. Yes, it is, because what do we do as adults when we get up in the days that our job absolutely stinks? We suffer. But we also know from that experience as a child what? When you got done pulling the weeds in the garden, you was done pulling the weeds in the garden, weren't you? It was over with. You had a respite. But I learned that work was necessary. And it kept us out of trouble as youngins. And work keeps us out of trouble as adults. Well, no, it doesn't. Well, how many people do you know that don't have a job and they while away their hours down at the pool hall or the beer joint or whatever they want to call it, wherever they want to call it at whatever point? How many people do you know that spend their days high or stoned or drunk that don't have any kind of gainful employment? They just spend their days in a daze, D-A-Z-E, not sure that they're even in this world because they don't have anything to sustain them. They don't have any needs to support themselves. We think of work as a curse, and we spend countless hours devising mechanisms, machines, and schemes to avoid it. But the reality is that God gave us those hours spent sweating, scheming, and dreaming to keep us from far worse sin than we already commit. Work is a gift. It is a gift made necessary by our rebelliousness and our desire to walk away from God. God made it necessary for us to till the ground. God made it necessary for us to support our families. God made it necessary for us to raise our children in the admonition and fear of the Lord. And He made these things that they took our time, they took our effort, they took our abilities, and they took more than our time, more than our effort, more than our abilities, because at that point we came to rely on Him. He gave us work to keep us away from sin and to draw us to Him when we found out and find out daily that we can't do it on our own. Think today what you would do if you had no worries in your life and all you had to do was open the cupboard, open the refrigerator. No, I'll go further. Think of it now if you could sit and simply say, I want, and somebody showed up with it. What would you do with your time? How would you occupy yourself? To what ends would you pursue the freedom that you feel like you've been given? I cannot steal, I cannot fornicate, I cannot commit adultery or idolatry if I am busy trying to keep myself fed, clothed, and under shelter from the elements. It's unpleasant to sweat. It's unpleasant to be grimy and nasty whenever you're done. It is unpleasant to work in an office and type at a keyboard all day and come home with a body that could do something and a mind that is so fried that you can't figure out what 2 plus 2 is without help from someone else. It is unpleasant. But then the question comes, what would do if God hadn't given us that to do? What would a being, what would a species, what would a race fallen in sin, born in rebelliousness, what would a race do as a whole if given freedom from need and want to pursue that rebelliousness, to pursue that hate towards God, to pursue that enmity with God? What would we sink to if God does not curse the ground for our sake? Where would we go? What would we do? What would we be guilty of? What misery would we subject ourselves to that He has mercifully kept us from? And I'll go further. I like to work. I said that. I love what I do. I get to play with adult Tonka toys all week, and I get to talk about God at least 3 times a week. I can't think of a much better thing to do myself. Any of you fellas here get to play with adult Tonka toys? They're awesome. And I get to talk about God. And if most of you know some of my past, trust me, the fact that I am standing here this morning is not because I am good. The fact that I'm standing here this morning is not because I'm skilled. The fact that I'm standing here this morning is not because I'm special. Understand what I'm telling you right now. I know my life, and I don't deserve to be here. It is a privilege to be here. I know what I've done. I know how I've lived. And He's allowed me to be here anyhow. There are aspects, of course, of my role that I don't care for. But they pale in comparison to the parts that I enjoy. Sometimes I don't like the conditions in my secular job. It's not fun laying in a mud hole somewhere. And I know that sooner or later I'm going to have to call someone on the carpet in my spiritual role, and I'm going to have to say, look, we can't do that. You know, it's going to happen. I haven't had to do it, but I'm not stupid. Sooner or later, I'll have to say, hey, that's not how this train, that's not the track this train's going on. That's just how it is. It's part of the job. And the thing is, when I say that, I like confrontation enough to know to avoid it, so I don't look forward to that. But I'm going to tell you something that is true for me, and I think that you'll find true for you. God has carried me through the labors that I have had, and I know that He will carry me through the labors that I've had in my life. Can you look and see where He has given you the job that you have, has placed you where you need to be, how you need to be, that He has in fact given you the very labor that you perform, that He has allowed you to work for your families, that He has allowed you to support your families, that He has given you what you have. Because we have this tendency to separate. There's God, and we're all holy and cleaned up and spiffy and religious today, and tomorrow, well, we got to leave church behind, we got to go to work. No, God gave you the job. God gave that to you. God placed you there in His infinite planning, His infinite glory, His infinite knowledge, all things being declared by Him from the beginning to the end. He laid out so that you have the job you have, the home you have, the family that you have, the friends that you have. He has placed you, given you, me, us, everything that we have, including the very work, the labor that we perform to feed ourselves. It is a blessing from God for a man to be able to look around and say, I'm doing this and it supports my family. God has given me more good than bad. I think you can say that about yourselves today. God has given me more good than bad. And even the bad, from my perspective, has been for my good, for my blessing. Because knowing that things are bad leads me to rely on Christ. Relying on Christ leads to my confirmation to the image and the likeness of Christ. And I would say today that our lives are different. Not one of us in here lives exactly the same life, but I know that we can all speak the same thing in truth. There's a certain dignity, I would say, in a body worn from a lifetime of work on behalf of family and faith. And I would even go so far as to say that although a body may be worn or torn from sport and amusement, the dignity is not there whenever you have worn yourself out in pursuit of folly. I'm going to tell you that an arm lost in a recreational skydiving accident is not going to be the most honorable thing in the world. If you lose an arm in combat or you lose an arm to a piece of machinery, I say, well, you were supporting your family, you were protecting your nation. If you jumped out of a perfectly good airplane because you woke up one Friday and said, you know what, I feel like jumping out of an airplane, and you lose an arm, I'm going to ask why you jumped out of a perfectly good airplane mid-flight. If you are bent and broken from serving God, from serving and supporting your spouse, your children, then I can see, respect, and honor that effort. I can see that you have spent your greater life in pursuit of the betterment of others and the glory and the worship of God. And we cannot see this in the life of an addict, a thief, the indolent, who has abandoned all obligation to family, friend, and child. Tell me that there is respect in one that will not work to support their family. That there is respect and dignity in sitting and watching others labor while we recline and indulge in whatever we indulge in. Show me where there is any dignity in that. Show me where there is any godliness in that. God's blessing of work teaches us to wait. We know to wait upon God and the coming to pass of His plans, but we see this in our reality and in a concrete way when we do something as simple as plant a garden. We rely on God for the increase, and that increase doesn't happen the next morning. If you plant a garden in May, it's going to be July or August before you see anything, isn't it? We plant it in faith then, don't we? When a few million farmers roll out in the Midwest in spring and they drop a coulter in the ground and they plant a few thousand acres in corn or soybeans or sugar beets or whatever they're growing, and they roll out with a few thousand acres worth of seed, fertilizer, and fuel, they don't see the results the next day. And if they're smart, they realize not only did they not see the results, they know who gives them the results. It is upon God to bring everything that comes to pass, and coming to pass in some things in our life can take decades. When we set out on a journey and job that turns into a lifelong career, we only see the step in front of us and the promise of more to come. It is upon God to bring all that to pass, and coming to pass in some instances can take decades. I first came here, 12 years ago? 15? No, maybe, I don't know. It shows the evidence for the faith that we carry within ourselves. God promised in His Word that springtime to winter, planting to harvest would never fail, and it never has. And saying that it never has, I can rest assured that it never will. And it will continue to the ending of our present world. And saying that God has so turned the seasons in the world, I can rest assured that I may plan with some degree of confidence, knowing that if it is in His will, that it will come to pass, and if not, that He has other, better plans in action for me. I can work knowing that my labor has purpose within the framework of this world and in the ending in eternity. I can work knowing that every second of physical or mental strain or misery pales compared to what I would face in perdition as a lost soul. Work also benefits the lost, although they would deny it. I've stated it before. Work keeps us from even deeper sin and debauchery than we currently sit in and sunk in and subject to. And I have said it before, I'll say it again. Consider the dictators and the tyrants down through time. When you give someone absolute power, they don't use it for absolute good. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The wise, the prudent, the godly have kept their crown of virtue working for their kingdoms and on behalf of the good of their people. When vice has overshadowed duty, when good governance has been set aside and delegated to lesser men, empires have fallen, crowns have melted in the flames, sin and villainy come and live where those empires are burned. Consider well Rome. And as a matter of closing thoughts, and I said thoughts, so don't get too excited, I want to leave you with some things to dwell on. We will work, every one of us. We will occupy our lives with the work of righteousness or the work of the damned. We will seek our bread openly, honestly, with hoe in hand, or we will seek the other man's bread and the shadows with a weapon in our hand. We will seek our legitimate gain, or we will work to avoid work. And I want to give you an example of this while I'm standing here. I have a couple minutes. Feller, it's been 15 years ago now, stole timber on the river behind our farm. I went out one morning in the dark to go to work, and I hear a Detroit diesel coming. And for those of you that don't know what a Detroit diesel is, picture a chainsaw engine the size of a car engine. Yes, they're two-stroke, and they are loud, and you don't do anything to make them loud. The fellow brought in a skidder from out the road with no muffler on it. You could hear it from a quarter mile, half mile away, but he turned the lights off when he went by the house. Couldn't see him, he snuck by. Yeah. He had a truck with the same kind of engine in it. Next morning, here comes the truck in. He turns the lights off like I can't hear him go by. Gee, it must be an airplane. Then he cut 1.5 miles of road to get around to the one road he could get out of without being seen to steal timber. He put more effort into stealing the timber than the timber was worth. That is a depraved human being. That is a person left to their own. That is someone that is unsaved. That is a person that will hide in the shadows with a knife to take what is yours and make it theirs. That is a person that worked to avoid work. We will glorify God, or we will give comfort and aid to the devil that seeks our damnation. We can pursue the noble, or we can fall at the perversion. It's not a matter of lack of work. We all work. Some work to better themselves. Some work to better their families, their church, their world. Some work in service to God. Most work to indulge the flesh, the carnal mind, and whatever the ruin in doing so is not a concern to them. They simply will land in that ruin, set in the ashes, and blame God for the destruction that they have brought upon themselves. And we will stand before God, and we will be judged by our work and by our works. I and my brothers and sisters will stand before our Lord Jesus to reward for our good, and we will cast our crowns at his feet, knowing it was he who empowered and enabled us to do so. I talked about this a little bit in Sunday school. We did. If I do an excellent job today, who did it? God. End of story. That's how that works. I go to work this week. Whatever I do, I don't have the ability on my own. God gave me whatever the ability is that I need. God gave me the strength, whatever it is that I need. It is of God, not of man. It is God who has empowered and enabled all of us who are saved to do these things. And if you are lost, you will stand in front of a great white throne, and you will be judged to condemnation. Every deed and its selfish, sinful motive will be laid bare. You will not escape. You will stand in shame. Your sins will be laid bare, and you will hold them in your own stained hands. You will be cast off. You'll be thrown down into a lake of fire and brimstone, suffering and anguish, and it will not end, and you will not end. If you are here today and you are lost, consider well what you are losing your mortal soul over. Does it profit you to lose your soul to eternity for what you might gain today, for a moment? Because I can assure you that it doesn't. Eat, drink, be merry today, because tomorrow we die. I don't die tomorrow. I don't end. I'm not eternal because I had a beginning, but I am unending. I am saved. I have eternal life. I don't have to eat, drink, and be merry for tomorrow I die, because I don't die tomorrow, or the day after, or the day after that. You can take my body if you want to, have at it. You just changed my address. You let me go home a bit early from my perspective. It's all good. Would you pursue a little bit of joy in this world, not even full joy for eternity? That is foolish. And I'm going to say this: you will eternally know that you could have sought Christ in forgiveness, and that it was only your love of sin and rebellion that kept you from it. And if you're here and you are lost, and I can tell you that you will never change in hell. You will never seek God, you will never seek forgiveness, and you will never seek good in hell. And God will not hear you in hell. You cannot curse, you cannot beg, you cannot plead. You can scream, you will not be heard. I say today, seek God, seek forgiveness, and seek work while you may in this world. Because night's coming. Brother Roger, if you would come.